Hey, thanks for coming. I'm Shreeni. I am a photographer. I work for GoPro, and I'm here to show you what I've experienced with the stars and what I captured, and how you can also work on getting some of these shots yourself. So the agenda for today is basically all these points. So first I'm going to talk about my story as a darkscape advocate, like how I got into photographing astral landscapes. Then talk about different technologies and how it has improved capturing night sky over a period of time, and different things like the world of astral landscape photography, and how GoPro plays a part here, like how we can capture things with some of the GoPro cameras, the recent ones, and show you some of other techniques like creating star trail photos and then creating a panorama, and how to take 360 photos of the night sky, and some of the editing basics too. Going to the story. So I was born in Chennai, which is a city, it's a metropolitan city in India, and I was born in 1985. So at that time, when I was a kid, we used to go to the terrace and then we used to gaze at stars. Even though it was a metropolitan city at that time, we were able to see quite a bit of stars, and nothing like you can't see Milky Way, but at least I was able to see some stars. And then over a period of time, when I was in my college, the light pollution grew so much. There was literally you can't see anything in the sky. It's completely polluted. And then I moved here, and I was in Cincinnati for a while, and I moved to Los Angeles, I moved to San Francisco. So everywhere I go, I didn't see anything. It was like a complete whiteout situation where there was no stars. And then all of a sudden, in 2011, me and a couple of my other friends, we took a trip to Utah. And this is the first time I saw Milky Way with my eyes, and I was literally blown away. And I didn't know how to express myself when I saw that. I was like, wow, there are so many stars. Where was this when I was in the city? And that's how I came to know about all this light pollution. And then I started taking a lot of interest on how to capture these scenes. Whatever that I'm seeing, so that I would be able to express myself through my art, and started documenting all these photos, and slowly I got acquainted with IDA, and I started wanted to publish kind of blogs and document all these light polluted areas, and then try to figure out how it changes with every different place, where if you're in a proper city, it's gone, you don't see anything. And if you move to a city for maybe 50 miles away, then probably start seeing some more stars. And as you move away from all these brighter lights, the visibility of the stars is getting much wider. And then the next one was basically when I joined GoPro. So until that point, I started working on all these, documenting all these stuff using my digital SLR, and then I joined GoPro. And after I joined GoPro, I started working with the team. I by education, I'm a mechanical engineer, and when I joined them, basically my passion towards photography and what they do kind of merged together. And I work with my team to how I can improve the low light capability of the camera. You all know that GoPro is they produce all these adventure cameras, but they are a really small potent camera which can be used for taking photos too. And that's something I keep working on and try to make it more widespread for taking low light photography. And then another thing which recently I started working on was creating real-time videos to create more public awareness. And that's one thing, for example, if I show all these crazy photos that I took, probably when you end up in the actual scene, you may not be able to see it. For example, if you go and see the Milky Way, it'll look like Milky White. Whereas if you see it in my photo, which was shot using a DSLR with like high-end sensor, you'll be seeing all the beautiful colors of the Milky Way. So it kind of like misguides people. So for that reason, like wanted to like try and make some real-time videos of it. And with the recent technological advancement, like that's possible. And till that point, you need to like do a long exposure, like for 30 seconds or 15 seconds, whatever. So the real-time video, what it shows is like whatever that you're currently seeing. And that's something like trying to like move on and work on, like how to in terms of like my landscape advocacy. So as I just told you, like technology and night sky, right? So like if you want to like have a good night sky image, you need to have like a really good sensor which can have very high low light sensitivity. And for example, like in terms of like how many of you here are like photographers? Yeah, quite a bit. So majority of you probably like do not know all these terminologies and stuff. But yeah, to make it simple, so there is something called light sensitivity in the camera, which is basically if you increase the ISO value, your noise increases, and it basically degrades your image quality. And for a small camera like GoPro, it's like highly impossible for you to like get such high quality image like a DSLR. But the point with the GoPro is like it's kind of like a $400 camera, so it's affordable for at least like many of the people compared to like buying a DSLR, investing on such like a high-end body like maybe like $1,500. Even like if you want to shoot it with the DSLR, you need a lens, and which is basically like a wide-angle lens, which needs to be like super fast, and that's probably another $600 to $1,000 depending on what you choose. So it's kind of like it becomes more expensive, and it becomes more tricky. And the role of GoPro here is it's like it's the camera that I have, and all the shots that you've seen like till now was shot with this. And yeah, I'll show you more going forward. So in my world of like astral and landscape photography, so the things that I want to do is like basically whenever I'm out, I plan for all of these. Like plan for weather. Like basically, if you know that it's going to be cloudy, there's no point going out and try to shoot stars. So you need to plan ahead. Like of course, like nature can surprise you anytime. So it's very hard to like 100% plan for it. But at least like to an extent, you can probably check for all these conditions before you go out. And another thing is like if you are like kind of new to dark skies, you probably like want to like go to the location first and then try to figure out like what you want to shoot. And in that case, you will be able to see what you're seeing like in the daylight, and then you can go after it gets dark, and then you can try to capture all these scenes. And then of course the creative composition, and there are like multiple rules of compositions out there. Like basically you can try to read on it, or like try to find some composition which kind of like appeals to you. I can show you some of the things that I shot. As well as like shoot RAW. So RAW is a format which is basically whatever that you get out of your, like maybe like if you just take a shot of from your cell phone, right? It's a JPEG. It's a compressed format. RAW is like a Adobe PNG uncompressed. Like it's not like a completely uncompressed, but it's kind of like less compressed format, I would say. And so it contains all the details. So whatever shot that you're taking, you would be able to like better manage noise, and then better manage like the details from it. And then of course like creative lighting. And if you are under the dark sky, like if you have some moonlight, then actually you can use that to your advantage to light up the landscape. But then if you are in a complete darkness where there's no moonlight, it's just like starlight, sometimes like if you have like a nice foreground like with snow-clad mountains, or maybe like white sand, the starlight is like totally enough for you to like light up the landscape. But if not, maybe you can use some creative lighting, like using artificial lighting to light up the landscape, or like that too, like in terms of light painting, probably you need to use some soft light instead of like hard light. so that you will be able to light the landscape like uniformly without making a huge impact for the others who will be there enjoying the night sky with you. And then, of course, check for all these location conditions like tide. If you're going to the coast, like you don't want to end up in a high tide where there's like a foot of beach for you to stand, or maybe like road conditions, like it's going to be snowy, wet, or whatever. So I consider all of these things. So if you're like want to like go out and not just photographing, just to enjoy the stars or something, so these are some things that you can take in mind. And this is a very interesting map. This is basically got this from NASA. So all the things that you see here, the bright ones, are basically the light pollution. And this is a real-time image from NASA. And that is basically the light pollution map. And on this, if you see, so all these whites, reds, is all where all the cities are. And you're not able to, like, you won't be able to see any stars from there. But then if you move away from it, the color condition like kind of improves. So usually you will start seeing the Milky Way in the green region, and it kind of like goes better like the grays and the dark grays. So it's kind of like a light pollution map. You can actually use this. It's probably available in that website link. And you can zoom into your location and then try to see like which is a good spot for you to head out and then check out the night sky. And I use this map pretty much like if I want to like go out and shoot, because it helps me judge how much the light pollution I would be facing like when I'm out. So coming to the GoPro cameras. So you've seen this. Like this is one camera which is like a regular wide-angle lens, a small one, and this one is the fusion camera, which is like a 360-degree camera. So assuming like some of the photographers here, right? So if you ask them like how you take a 360 photo, they would say like you need like multiple cameras, or maybe like if you want to do a time lapse or something, you need to set up at least like 3 cameras with like 12 mm like a really wide lens for you to capture the whole scene. Whereas with this small camera, you would be able to capture the whole 360 in just one body. So if you look like basically it has like 2 lenses, 2 camera bodies stitched together, and you would be able to like capture more than 180 degrees on one side. So it combines everything together for you. And so in the GoPro camera, like whatever that I just told you, like the ISO, light sensitivity, and exposure compensation, white balance, sharpness, color, RAW. So these are some of the options that is actually available in the camera. And when any of you here who is a GoPro user? Okay. So do you guys know all these options?
Which generations of the GoPro use those?
I think this is starting from Hero 5. Yeah. But then we are at Hero 7 now. But yeah, so in terms of like even like a lot of GoPro users have seen, like previously, like a couple of months back, I went to Canada to do a presentation using on GoPro stuff, and people who are like proper advocates of GoPro, they did not know some of these things. So it's like I thought like maybe it will be easier for me to like educate them on the basics so that they understand the basics for them to like maximize the use of these small cameras. So these are some of the things, like for example, like ISO light sensitivity, as you see, we have it till like 1600 now. And if you notice, like I'll come to the cheat sheet. So if you go to like IS 1600, it's going to be like a little noisy. So that's where you need to like create these raw files in your camera so that you will be able to like reduce some of the noise. And that will be like really helpful for you to like take all these dark sky images. And then white balance, I generally go with like 4000 white balance if I'm doing a night shot. And then similarly like sharpness, low, color, like flat for you to like capture the maximum possible dynamic range. And then of course like raw. So going to the low light photography basics. So obviously, like you've seen, like some of the shots that I've already showed you here is all like shot when things are dark. So I always like when the light is low. So it creates like dramatic light for you to capture. And dark skies are obviously stunning. You guys are here because you are passionate about dark skies. And I would say like if you want to like be how many of you here like have captured dark skies? That's nice. Maybe like 20%, 30%. Yeah. So, but even for the others, like if you think like if you're going out and then enjoying the dark skies, you may think that capturing the experience is somewhat like it makes it more valuable. So, for example, like if you end up like going there and then start shooting, right? Like basically you get some visual images, and that is exactly what these people were telling right before, like during the darkscape advocacy, like using the social media. So if you're out, like you can capture some of these photos, or yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is that a GoPro image right there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Everything that I've posted here is all from GoPro.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. So when you're out, you're enjoying the stars, right? So in the meantime, you can capture yourself, and then you probably like put it on social media. So that's like an added darkscape advocacy for others to see. So for example, like if I have like 2,000, 3,000 followers on my Instagram, I can post it, and people see it, and they come and ask me like, "Wow, this is great! Like, where do you see so many stars?" So I can guide them like, "Okay, so you can go here, and you can see so many stars there." Or I can probably like point to the map wherever I showed them. Right? So basically, I can explain about all the light pollution and stuff. So similarly, like whenever you go out, like you capture these. So capture some of these amazing landscapes with the stars. It kind of like evokes an emotion on your viewers. So instead of just like typing in words, if you have a visual image to show them, that creates an emotional connectivity between you and the viewer. And that's exactly what I try to do every time I go. And as kind of like coming back to the topic, so basically low light for photography. When you capture all these images, there are like challenges. So shadows and highlights are like very hard to balance in single exposure. So sometimes I always like prefer taking a single exposure. I like generally not do a lot of composites. But then if at all like you want to like capture like nice details on the landscape and the stars, you may eventually do multiple exposures and then combine it together. And higher noise means like it's basically with higher light sensitivity. I told you like it's going to be like higher noise. So eventually you may end up using some of the tools available where you can reduce these noises from the images. Like for example, this Aurora shot that I shot using this Hero 7. So if this was a single shot, it probably would have like created a lot of noise in the image. And once I got it, I basically did a time lapse, and basically I got maybe like 200 shots on that. And once I stack it, stacking actually helps in reducing the noise eventually. So the stacking algorithm in maybe like Photoshop or something, it recognizes that noise in the images, and it will be able to like reduce the noise for you. So this image, if probably like I showed you like without all these branding from GoPro, probably you wouldn't be aware that it was shot with a GoPro, right? So so that's because like the amount of stacking actually reduces the amount of noise.
So how many exposure stack is this?
It's about like a 200 shot time lapse.
And did you use Lightroom to stack it or Photoshop?
I think I use Photoshop for it.
Do you remember what ISO you shot that one with?
1600.
1600.
1636.
Good.
What's the aperture on GoPros?
GoPro has a 2.8 aperture. Yeah, 2.8, and the focal length is approximately around 15 mm, like on a full frame. Yeah, but it's basically 8 mm lens, so it's a pretty fishy lens. Yeah.
I haven't used the Hero 7 yet, but how do you focus? How do you focus at night?
Exactly, there's no focusing. So
Right.
that's the biggest advantage of GoPro. So if you consider any lens, right? So you need to try and focus it to infinity, or wherever, for example, like if I'm standing here, then I need to focus myself. So it will be like really hard for you to do it in a really dark condition. Probably like I will use it light on me or something to focus the light, and then put it on manual focus back, and then try to shoot it. So, or if you are shooting at the stars, you need to like try to find the actual infinite focus on your lens, and from the lens may not even have it. So it's kind of like very hard. But that's one of the major advantage of this. So this is like an infinite focus lens. So there's no focus out of like.
So it's
kind
on
of-
infinity all the time?
Yeah, it's on infinity all the time. And since it's like a really fisheye lens, the focal length, like where it's in focus, is probably this distance. So
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
can
so
get
do it-
anything from 2 feet to 3 feet to infinity. can't
not
you?
even 2 feet. Probably it's focused. My hand is in focus right now.
Wow,
So yeah. So
that's a
that-
big advantage.
That's one of the biggest advantage of using a GoPro. And another thing is like if you are using a DSLR, like it's kind of like hard for you to like put it on like ground or something like. Whereas this one, it's kind of like rugged, so I can even throw it down now. So it doesn't matter.
Come on.
So I've put it down so many times. So, yeah. So but the thing is like you can like for example like in some of the shots like it just like put it on ground and then take a shot. So I don't even need a tripod for this. Yeah.
How long was each exposure that you took for your 200 shots?
30 seconds. Yeah, 1600 and 30 seconds.
36 seconds?
30.
3 seconds?
30.
30 seconds?
Yeah.
What's battery life like doing long exposures?
So this one lasts like about like 3 hours.
That's not bad.
Full battery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the maximum I did. Like it goes up to 3 hours.
That's enough.
Yeah. Okay, so the image that you see. So basically, we have shot it in JPEG, but then I shot this in like ISO 800. So you see the difference, right? Basically, you don't see anything here, whereas a raw processed image is on the right hand side, where you can extract all the shadow details, and then you can increase the details on the Milky Way, you can reduce the highlights on the moon. So basically, you can do a lot of things with raw format. Basically, like another thing is like noise reduction. So noise reduction is like highly compelling. So if you look at this, it's a JPEG directly from the camera. And if you zoom in, probably not from here. If you zoom in, you will be able to see a lot of artifacts because it was like compressed in the camera itself. Whereas on that, if you zoom in, you won't be able to see all those artifacts because it was shot raw, and then I use like high-end like noise reducing algorithms to produce such images. So similarly here, like the details on the left and the right are like totally incomparable because it's the power of raw. And I was like really surprised when I joined GoPro. Like at that time, like people even at GoPro, they did not think GoPro is a good photo camera. They always think it's a great video camera. Of course, it's a great video camera. I don't argue about it. But this small thing is a great photo camera too. And this one does like really good time lapses without any aperture flicker, which you end up in there. So it's all like mechanical aperture on those lenses. So basically, when you do a time lapse, you end up with aperture flicker, which is what like when the camera tries to go to for example, if you're shooting like a 3.5 aperture or something, whenever you try to go to that 3.5 aperture, it won't be exactly 3.5. So it'll be like 3.45, 3.51, 3.53, somewhere. So because of that, your exposure like will keep jumping here and there, and you will be able to see that in your time lapses. Whereas this one is like fixed aperture. There's nothing you need to worry about. So you don't end up with any flickers on your time lapses. Yeah. So the main agenda, like capturing the experiences, the key, right? Like especially nowadays, like with all the social media thing being a big thing about like where you want to showcase your work or like trying to race for cars or something like that. So basically, when you capture the experience, it kind of like creates emotion. For example, you can create on the left hand side, it's a cave, and you can use like different composition techniques for you to like create such compelling shots which you are actually experiencing it at that point. So when I was here, I was like blown out with the amount of details on the cave that you see here, like some leading lines going through, and the ocean, the rushing waves, and the stacks right behind, and some glittering stars inside. So so here, like I kind of like obviously like I wanted to show that detail of those rocks, like the lines going through, pointing to the stars. So you could probably like do a soft lighting on those rocks on top, and you would be able to like create such an exposure. This is all like single exposures. So nothing was stacked, nothing was a composite. So it's all straight from the camera with a single exposure of the 30 seconds. And on the right hand side, obviously like self capture. So trying to put yourself in the frame will make it more interesting for the viewer. And for example, here I had my Jeep right on the cliffside, and then I was standing there, staring at the Milky Way. So kind of like whenever people see it, they wow, that's a nice experience, right? Basically, you end up in a place where there's no light. Like if you see in the horizon, I'm facing towards west in Pacific Ocean, so there's literally nothing. So you don't see any horizon light pollution dome. So it's all like clear, crystal clear Milky Way, clear skies, so it's all good. So yeah.
On both of these exposures, especially the one on the right, the self-capture, did you raise that up in a Adobe Camera Raw by 2 EB?
If generally you don't have to like increase it too much. The only thing I played around there is like maybe like just adjust some of the details in the Milky Way, and then pull down some of the highlights on the light that got hit here on my Jeep, and maybe like increase some of the shadows on the ocean side. So that's all I did.
Amazing. Nice.
And again, like some of the other techniques that I use is like trying to create a scale, and always trying for alignment. So astronomy is all about alignment, right? So basically, when I'm out, like trying to get good alignment is something which I always look for. For example, like here, I'm standing in the middle, right in the center of the frame, and on one side, actually it was a lighthouse, and the other side, there was a moon setting. And right in between, there was Milky Way. So I thought, okay, I can probably like center myself, and then I can have the two lighting, like one is the artificial light, and one is the natural light, and in between the Milky Way is shining. So I thought maybe it would be a interesting scene. So it's kind of like, you probably like end up going there, you try to see what your, like the thought process here is like to capture such images. Like basically you go there, and then you visualize what you're actually seeing, like how you can actually capture them. So some of these techniques may be like, if you try to follow these, you may be able to like get some really good shots. And the second one here, like trying to find different shapes in nature. For example, here, like it's a spider web. I was like completely surprised, even like shocked to see such a big spider web in front of me. Imagine this is a small wide-angle lens, and I was right next to the spider. And considering this is a wide-angle lens, imagine how big the web would be. Like the web was like this big, right in front of me. Yeah.
With a DSLR, you'd have to do about 7 depth of field focus stacks to get that shot.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one thing. So basically, I was right next to the spider, probably in this distance, and everything was in focus. So that's another big advantage with GoPro. I frankly, I wouldn't compare the quality of what you can get it on that with this, but for like as I told you, like for social media sharing or like dark sky advocacy, this really helps. because as I told you, like anyone can probably get hold of this camera like very easily and stuff, and they don't have to have all the knowledge in the world for them to like create such images. You don't have to be a pro photographer, I mean, like to create these images. And again, the next one is like balanced lighting. So trying to get some smooth lighting in the foreground helps showing what it is. So on the right, like basically it's a tide pool. So you're able to see all those seaweeds and other sea creatures on the rock, and the Milky Way and the setting moon was there. So these are some of the things that you can actually try, and then you can capture these images. So going to the cheat sheet. So I've told you like all the technical things. Probably you are never aware of all these things. Some of them are at least. So for example, like if you have a GoPro or like any other camera, like for example even a cell phone for that matter. So nowadays even cell phones are getting up really with the low light capabilities. So for example, like if I'm shooting in a dark sky environment where there is literally no moon or nothing. So what I do is like I have my ISO min and max at 1600, and then try to shoot for 30 seconds, which will give me the maximum amount of light that's available naturally. And in that case, you will be able to get closer to what I have there. So on that, like probably I would have increased a little bit of exposure, maybe by +1 there. But yeah, so eventually you will come close to what you're actually seeing with your eye. And the second one, like when there is moon. So and then like with the moon there are like two conditions. If the moon is like super bright, like maybe like more than 50%, where you may not be able to like see many stars in the sky. So at that point, like basically trying to reduce your exposure will make sense for you to like get a naturally feeling image. For example, like if you do a 3200 exposure or something on this, for 30 seconds, it will like probably overexpose all the details, and probably you may think that it's a shot from a proper daylight. So it won't look like even like moonlight. So it's kind of like try to play with what light you have. So some of the spec here is basically from my experience, like what I shot. Yeah.
Quick question on the color. What's the GoPro color?
So basically we have like two types. So for example, like if you are shooting with the DSLR, like you basically have different scene types or something. So this is like a GoPro color. GoPro color means like GoPro applies its own color. So it's a camera embedded color.
It's like auto versus.
It's not exactly auto. So for example, like if you shoot it flat, it has the maximum dynamic range. It's like unprocessed. Whereas GoPro color is actually processed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And either like shoot for 30 or 15 seconds depending on how bright it is. And then again, if you're shooting a night lapse, then obviously there is one extra thing which is basically the interval, which is you can probably shoot it to auto interval. So every time like GoPro shoots a photo, it for example like if I keep the camera here and then start shooting the time lapse, it keeps shooting for like it takes a 30-second exposure and then breaks for like 1 or 2 seconds, again starts doing it. So depending on like the amount of exposure, it actually calculates the interval time and then automatically does that. So for example, this is the time lapse I shot with GoPro 07.
Where is that?
This was near San Francisco. So basically I was up high in the cliff and then
In Skyline, right?
yeah, Skyline Drive. Yeah.
What did you use for the motion control?
That was in post.
Was
That
that?
was in post.
Post and post.
In post.
Oh, in
yeah.
post.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're zooming and panning
Yeah, it was
in
like,
post.
panning in post.
Okay.
So another thing is the start rate, like I showed you, like the other shot that you saw. So you can create, you can take a time lapse and then you can stack everything together and you can create such images, and which will basically be much better than a single image that you got. Single image probably will have all these noise, whereas if you stack it, it reduces the noise and the amount of quality increases dramatically. So some of the steps I've noted, like basically if you haven't familiar with all of these, like you can stack everything in like Photoshop or something, and it'll automatically like does it for you. And panorama is another technique where you would be able to like shoot the scene which the camera is not able to take it in one shot. So for example, why a panorama first of all? So the first thing is like basically if you take one shot with this, it's like a 12 megapixel, and if you do a panorama, you are increasing the megapixel, and you have like more detail. And you can another thing is like, for example, this one, the field of view is like 190 degrees or something, right? And if, for example, if you're shooting the whole 360 arch, that's like going from one southeast or even like south to north, so it's more than 180 degrees. So in that case, like you will be able to like take vertical images spanning through the scene, and you can stitch everything together later point. And there are like multiple software available which can do this like in a few seconds. Like basically you just need to edit them, and then you can combine them everything together.
You had a question here?
Yeah.
I was just curious, you said like edit first and then stitch into a panorama. Is there a reason to edit first as opposed to stitching first and then editing?
So why I edit, like either you can like basically, for example, if you're using the Photoshop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are getting the raw directly to create a panorama,
Mm-hmm.
then it's okay. But if you kind of like don't edit and then just create a JPEG, so basically you're losing out on the like the power of raw. So you will lose all the details. So yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And then thinking spherical. So basically the other camera that I showed you, even this is like almost equally potent as this one, which can shoot the stars. So all these were like captured using this one. And if you see this, that's actually a time lapse of the sky for maybe like an hour or an hour and a half. And I combined everything together. Like basically you can first basically you need to stitch. There'll be like two images, and you will stitch them together, and then after that you can play around with the perspectives later on. So for example, like just one time lapse, I was able to make 4 different things. Okay, so this is a star stack, and then I played around with the perspectives and to make that Little Planet style. And then the other one is more like rectilinear fashion, and this one is again like inverse Little Planet kind of style, and it's a single image if you notice. And the right one is actually a time lapse, and it's a 360 time lapse. And if you have to like shoot it with a DSLR, probably you may end up like having 3 camera setup simultaneously. You need to match the exposure and all that stuff. So everything has been like made easy with that. The only thing is like you may not get the actual quality of what you get from the DSLR. I wouldn't argue with that, but it makes it like very easy for a common man to do it. Unless like you are doing something for like a professional like a thing, then yeah, for a common man, I think like this make everything easier. And if you end up like maybe having this 360 camera, like some of the things that you may have to think about when you are shooting with the Fusion is basically that one currently as we speak do not have raw format for night, but because of that you may have to like light the shadows a little bit, and you will have to like creatively plan the foreground, because for example here I had my camera, and then on one side I had the lighthouse, on the other side I had the ocean. So basically I had like an ocean and the stars. So I had like interesting things on both sides of the camera. So I wanted to capture both sides. If I probably like ended up on the other side of the lighthouse, probably the only interesting point would have been Milky Way and the lighthouse on one side. So the other side wouldn't have been interesting. So trying to think 360 is something like probably you will have to go and then see like, okay, how can we make the whole scene like interesting? So you need to plan and compose that first before you even start with anything. And of course, like stacking the star trails reduces the noise a lot, and then you can increase the details too. And then VR players actually from GoPro, which you can use once you edit them. You will be able to change all these FOVs and stuff on that. And another thing, like when you're using Fusion, like the LCD lights up, so you may have to like reduce the LCD brightness to 10%, basically just like LCD off. Otherwise, you will have a ghost in your image. Yep. And apart from that, like general do's and don'ts of night exploration, obviously carry flashlight, preferably red. Otherwise, like people around you will become mad. And then obviously, like safety first, watch out for hazards like wildlife or any other thing. And then get accustomed to starlight first, when you go there, turn off all your lights and wait out like maybe like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You will start seeing everything. Even from the landscape, you will be able to see everything. And after that, you will be able to like take a better shot. Then just go hurry and then try to take some shots. And another thing is like make some noise to all wildlife, carry bad spray, and yeah, of course, enjoy the stars. Like that's one of the main things you need to do. So you can put it on auto mode, let it do its work, you enjoy the stars. And some of the editing basics here, probably if you're not familiar with Lightroom or Photoshop. So this is again like you can increase the exposure, you can change the, like you can reduce the noise, you can do all sorts of things with these tools available. And then trails, again you can, Photoshop does it very easily with combining all these shots that you took. I can probably show, but I think that we are running out of time. I'm not be able to like show you how to go about doing these, but it should be like a pretty easy thing to do if you probably search it out. And again, time lapse, you put everything together instead of a stack, you will basically play it as a video, render it as a video. And here is one small compilation which I shot with GoPro Hero 6. Check it out.
Wow. Nice.
No volume. So if you look at the difference, so all those were like dark skies, and the city, you don't see anything different. It's all lighter. I think we are in the presentation now.
In your opinion, which is the better night camera, the GoPro 6 or the 7?
7. Yeah.
But you said these were shot with the 6.
Yeah, this
right?
was shot with the 6. The main difference is like the ISO. So the 6 will go up to 800, whereas the 7 can go up to 1600.
Wonderful.
I'm curious, why are there gaps in the star trails? Is there like an image processing delay between photos that the GoPro has?
Oh no, maybe here I think I removed some of the shots which had light
airplanes.
intrusions. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not maybe like car passing by or something like so I removed them.
Okay.
What's the MSRP on this GoPro 7?
400?
$399?
Yeah, 399. Any other questions?
So there's one other one to go back a few slides to your like time-lapse screenshots. That is from Adobe Photoshop. Was it Photoshop or Premiere?
Photoshop.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do the time lapse in Photoshop.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Awesome.
Yeah, you don't need Premiere.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming. Yeah, thank you.